Hey everybody, I just wanted to make, it's kind of like a process video for a song that I've been working on for the last couple days. Just to show you guys like some of the choices you have to make when you're starting out in a project. And also just so that you don't get so caught up on like your first couple tracks, so that you keep moving, keep thinking about it, making choices, continuing the process. So I mean, even though this is like a dramatized version of me kind of coming up with this song, I still didn't spend too much time like thinking about it. I kind of just like let the project take me wherever it was gonna go. And it started with this drum track I found on Splice, which is the kind of loop plugin type database that I was telling you guys about. Is this drum track right here. Super quick, simple. I really liked how the first half of this drum track had like it's like reverb, but the second half is dry. I thought that was super cool, so I decided to throw it in a Logic, mess around with it. So I wanted something kind of more regular to accentuate the syncopation in the drum. So I grabbed this shaker that I found along with it and just did that on the eighth notes in the measure. And I took it to beat 1 of the second measure so that I could grab all of it, hit Command J, and join all those audio files together so that I could split it with Command T, delete, and then loop. So now I have a shaker with my little drum track. Just have a regular element to go alongside the irregular drum. From there, I started hearing that there wasn't too much bass in what I had so far. There was a kick in the drum loop, but it wasn't super bassy, so I grabbed this like Moombahton kick that I found in Splice. Let me download that. Moombahton is like I'm butchering the pronunciation, but it's like a Colombian style of music. It was in like a future bass pack, so I did the same thing, bring it to the beginning of the second measure, cut it, and then loop it. So now you can hear got a nice bass element to my track. This kick's kind of all bass. So I decided to layer in a second kick that I've used before, just to add some treble in. Oh, I have to download this one too. Just add some treble with the kick. So I'm just like doubling the kick, but it's layering. You'll find is like a common thing that producers do to kind of bring in different types of sounds into one element of a song. So here, I mean, I have 2 kicks, but they're each, this is like a mid-range kick, while this is like all bass. Together it sounds really nice. Bring this one down a little bit. And with the track, the rest of it, excuse me, it sounds really good. So last thing I need is like a big snare I always like having a snare on the 2 and 4 to kind of just bring the whole track together. So I found this snare clap in this like Run the Jewels pack on Splice. I really like using Splice for drums. I haven't experimented with it too much with other things, just because I think like synths, it's harder to like edit them to sound original. So it's like if someone else has used a synth loop, it's kind of like, oh, kind of not great. But I mean, like, you hear like the same types of drum sounds across a lot of different genres. A lot of different producers will use like a couple that they really like. So, and with drums, I mean, it's easier to make them your own, edit them, add different effects to get them to sound different. So here's my final little beat. I experimented with like another like syncopated snare, but it didn't really sound good. I deleted it later in the process. But I mean, from there, I really started experimenting with different software instruments in Logic, finding chords or at least a melody. I ended up finding a melody before I found chords, and then just built the chords. I kind of just built like an arpeggiated so it's like arpeggiated, so it's pretty easy to find the chords from there, because I mean, this is basically the chords. But before I got there, I mean, I checked in the synthesizers for like leads. I was like, these will probably sound too big for what I'm going for. I wanted a more natural, intimate kind of sound. I know I played around with the Glass Marimba a little bit. That's where I started to find this like this G minor type chord thing. But you probably won't predict where I went from here, because super weird. I just, listening to this drum, like, it's so, it's rhythmic. It almost has like a syncopated like world quality to it. And I was like thinking about like a more like world vibe. And I knew like I needed a weird kind of instrument to set the track apart, a lead of some kind. And I ended up finding this Chinese erhu violin. I don't know what this instrument is. Like, that picture looks pretty strange. But it has this really like I really liked that kind of rough quality to it, and I knew like that it was right kind of when I started playing around with it, and so I'll just record it really quickly. I mean, that was the creation of my lead synth. I used this violin. At this point, I was listening to it. I ended up adding a delay to the violin, which I'm not going to go into here. It's kind of complicated, not necessary, but I'll show it in the second video. From here, I was like, okay, I need an intro. I don't really want all the drums in the intro. So I kind of like mixed and matched. I tried out the drum with the snare. I thought there was still too much going on, so then I tried the kicks of the snare. Too little, so finally I settled on the snare and the shaker. It's kind of the intro. And so I just decided to do like a little 4-bar thing. So I cut it up. Deleted the kick. Cut the shaker for the verse. Here we go. And then I decided to just pull the drums back to a chorus part. So now I had my intro part. Into kind of a verse structure. But I didn't have any chords, so I just opened, a basic piano. I ended up adding like a cool reverb to it that had like this kind of weird, mysterious quality. I really didn't change much about the piano. I kind of just ran with it because I thought it sounded cool over the other elements. So I just did these chords lower. But I did them like softly, like I played it like. I liked this like G on top. So that's where I got I just did this as like the lead instrument in the verses, so I just recorded it softly. Let me do the count in. Messed it up. Let me just edit this. And so now I had like a piano. Just edit these velocities, you can barely hear them. So that's basically the piano I did during the verse. At this point, I started looking for a bass. I knew I needed more movement than this, because it's kind of static. So when I went to go look for a bass instrument, I immediately started looking in the arpeggiated basses, synth bass right here. And so, I mean, I kind of looked around. I tried like this one. It's kind of nasty. I know I thought about doing this click bass, but I didn't really like the sound. I ended up settling on this Italo disco pattern bass. See, I thought it had like this cool 80s vibe. I did it lower. But I didn't like the arpeggiated pattern. So I went into the ARP, which is like it's a MIDI plugin that Logic has built in. And I started experimenting with these like chord grooves. I didn't really find any that I particularly liked. So then I decided like I went through like some of these. Then I went back up and I saw this bouncing funk. I was like, maybe this is like the syncopation I need. And you can see down here, it has like the main beats, and then these are kind of like off beats, which add this, it has this really cool bounce. I mean, bouncing funk really sums it up. So I ended up going with that. Let's record that. wrong beat. There we go. Super cool. The bass, I mean, really, once I found that bass, I thought the song really clicked. I felt I was like, I have something here, which it usually takes, you know, like one good element to find that. So let me make sure it sounds right. I'll show you in the second video what I did to kind of get the bass to work with the kicks, just because it's all in the same kind of EQ range. But from there, the final thing that I felt was really like a clincher was I added this like electric piano, vintage EP, I think it was the Suitcase. I like knew that underneath all this, like just a pulse of like could sound really cool. Might have been the Bright Suitcase. Let me check. I made like some notes so that I got the right one. Sorry, checking my phone. Yeah, the Bright Suitcase. So I just did a G minor kind of pulse under all this. Turned it down so that it's like barely, like it registers a little bit, but kind of just adds like this cool, like uneasy feeling. Make sure that's eighth notes. See, that's like, there's dissonance, but it's not too loud. It's kind of just like in the background. I know I put that one on the outside, so I did like an ADT with sample delay. ADT, automatic double tracking, just so that it's on the outside of your... I did the same thing with the shaker, actually. Just didn't do it. So, with the automatic double tracking, the intro sounds a bit wider. I might have done it on the violin too. I'll have to check my track, but... So this is the basic verse. I know for the pre-chorus I brought the shaker back in. And right here, my last instrument that I added, I brought in it's another arpeggiator. Might have been in the synth bass. It was like a pattern. Syncopated pattern, here we go. And so I just did this like higher up. Kind of just like above everything. Also like quieter than the rest of it. Something like that, just to add a little bit of a an extra movement in the pre-chorus going into the... You'll notice I'm like quantizing everything to fix it. The timing. And so that's where I'll end this video, just to show you. I mean, I have like a, you know, like an intro part right here. I got like a, like this is like verse 1 into like a pre-chorus type thing building into a chorus. I didn't really go into the chorus, but you'll see it. You'll listen to the song. You'll hear how the chorus is, and I'm also going to go into a little bit of detail on what I did on each of the tracks in a second video. But this just gives you an idea. It really doesn't need to take that long to kind of come up with an idea, work with it a little bit, and then, you know, add elements to fill it out before you start working. I always start with the track first when I want to work on a new song. I mean, you could always have a lyrical idea, like something you want to talk about going in, but a lot of times I feel like that just like bogs you down, makes you like throw out ideas you would have played around with otherwise. So I try not to come in with any lyrical idea, so that at this point I can start thinking while I'm still working on the track, like, oh, like this is darker, like kind of mysterious. I can have like, it's kind of sexy. I could do something. I could go a lot of different ways with this. So that's kind of the beginning of my track.